Hello, my name is Dr. Michael Norco. I am a professor of psychiatry at the Yale School of Medicine, a graduate of the Yale Divinity School, and chair of the Psychiatry and Religion Committee of the Group for the Advancement of Psychiatry, known by the acronym GAP. A number of years ago, we became aware of increasing concerns in some faith communities about suicides and other unwanted outcomes among young LGBTQ people of those communities. Within GAP, the Psychiatry and Religion Committee and the LGBTQ Committee were inspired to work together to assemble some information, guidance, and resources that faith communities might use to address this problem. The result was this handbook, first published in 2020 and updated in 2024. We have heard from some faith communities who have used this booklet in their work, and we are interested in making more communities aware of this resource and helping them to use it to decrease adverse mental health and health outcomes for LGBTQ youth. Given that you are watching this brief video, it probably means that someone in your community is hoping to involve you in discussions about this concern within your faith community. This video is intended to give a brief overview of what those discussions might include. First, let's consider how mental health and religious or spiritual concerns might overlap, and thus how we might benefit from this dialogue. We can begin by acknowledging the ways that faith groups and healthcare providers represent communities of care that are invested in the welfare of young people and others. In both settings, we find ways to deal with suffering, despair, and death, and ways to seek hope, meaning, and purpose. And in both domains, we look for means to alleviate pain and address life's difficulties in efforts to enhance physical, social, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Faith communities are often leaders in fostering care for others and love of neighbor, care for creation, seeking justice and peace, and affirming the gift and dignity of human life. Ideally, we should see both the congregation and the clinic as places of healing. Today, our LGBTQ youth are in need of such healing. Numerous studies have demonstrated that because of the stresses they face, sexual minority youth are at significantly increased risk for multiple adverse mental health and health outcomes compared to their non-LGBTQ peers. They are about twice as likely to be bullied or use illicit drugs. They are more than twice as likely to feel persistently sad or hopeless. 58% report symptoms of depression, and 73% report symptoms of anxiety disorder. They are more than 3 times as likely to inject illegal drugs. They are more than 4 times as likely to attempt suicide. 45% of LGBTQ youth seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year, and 14% attempted suicide. Among youth who died by suicide, LGBTQ youth were 5 times more likely to have been bullied, and among LGBTQ youth aged 10 to 13 who died by suicide, more than 2/3 had been bullied. 53% of LGBTQ youth reported verbal harassment at school because of their identity, and 24% reported physical harm or threats because of their identity or orientation. 40% of homeless youth identify as LGBTQ, whereas only 5 to 10% of the general population identify as LGBTQ. One of the well-studied variables in determining these negative mental health outcomes is the level of rejection experienced by LGBTQ youth within their families. For example, LGBTQ youth who were raised in families with high levels of rejection had more than an eightfold increase in suicide attempts compared to those who experienced low levels of rejection. It is also important to note the significant difference in suicide rates for youth experiencing moderate levels of rejecting behaviors compared to those experiencing high levels of rejecting behaviors. Examples of family rejecting behaviors that have been studied include hitting, physically hurting, or verbally harassing a child because of their LGBTQ identity, excluding a child from family events and activities, blaming a child when they are mistreated or discriminated against because of their LGBTQ identity, parents telling their child that they are ashamed of them, and making a child keep their LGBTQ identity a secret. The same trend is seen for depression, which makes sense given the correlations between depression and suicide. The takeaway message of these figures is that we can make real improvements in the mental health of our young people by learning how to reduce rejecting behaviors in their homes and in our communities. It is equally true that we can improve the health and well-being of LGBTQ youth by increasing accepting behaviors within families. Examples of the helpful accepting behaviors that have been studied include talking with the child about their LGBTQ identity, parents expressing affection when they learn of their child's identity, parents supporting their child's identity even if they feel uncomfortable, parents working to make their congregations supportive of LGBTQ members, and believing the child can have a happy future as an LGBTQ adult. Decreasing rejecting behaviors and increasing accepting behaviors are goals that can be achieved, growing out of the love that parents and communities have for their children. It is not necessary to abandon one's beliefs or faith traditions in order to help young people have better futures. It is possible for parents to help their children even when they feel uncomfortable or conflicted about their child's identity or orientation. And there is a role for faith communities to play in this process. Part 2 of the GAP booklet explores the ways in which faith communities can be helpful in promoting the well-being of their LGBTQ youth. While different faith traditions have various teachings about sexual orientation and same-sex marriage, no tradition wishes to harm its young people or discourage them from remaining within the tradition in which they were raised. But there will inevitably be tensions in situations where deeply held principles collide. Just as it is not necessary for parents to abandon their beliefs in order to help their LGBTQ children, it is not necessary for faith communities to do so in order to contribute to positive health and mental health outcomes for LGBTQ youth. The GAP booklet describes the types of behaviors that are harmful and should be avoided, as well as those that are helpful and should be encouraged. It also provides information about available resources, such as posters that can be obtained, that offer more examples of family behaviors known to shape outcomes for LGBTQ youth. These are useful topics for exploration and dialogue within your communities. It will be important to communicate several messages to parents in this process. Parents may have a hard time managing their reactions to learning about their child's sexual orientation or gender identity and may need someone to talk to about that. Members of your community may be helpful in identifying people to whom such parents could speak, including other parents, clergy, and other helping professionals. It is important for parents to be honest with themselves about their emotions and their own needs, and not to be hard on themselves about their reactions and their needs. Parents need to be sure that their child is assured of their love in what they say and in how they act. They should make a point of continuing to engage with their child in activities that they have enjoyed and which have defined them as a family, including attending religious services. Parents should be open to listening when their child wants to talk. As with anything else about raising children, parents don't have to have all the answers. They just need to be there to listen and show their love. Like so many other aspects of parenting, this is not necessarily easy work. But loving parents and loving faith communities understand the value of sacrifice in efforts to love and support their children. There may be hard questions or hard feelings to face, but making a commitment to help our young people achieve lives of hopefulness and helpfulness means making a commitment to continuing the conversation for the sake of our children's wellness. Conflicts should not be conversation enders. They should be conversation starters, and they should be expressed along with the clear message that the adults of the community love and respect the young LGBTQ person. Families and faith communities do not need to do this work alone. We encourage them to include mental health and health providers in their local communities and, where possible, within their own faith community in these conversations and efforts to improve the well-being of LGBTQ youth. We also invite you to communicate with us at the email address listed here. Are there questions that you need further help with? Do you have suggestions for ways to improve the booklet or the toolkit? We also encourage you to let us know of your successes or any helpful programs or activities you have discovered or created yourselves. We share with you the desire for the well-being of all the young people of your community. We wish you well in your pursuit of ongoing dialogue, welcome, and inclusion.